Title: Cops tied her up and laughed. Her army's vengeful storm will haunt you. Picture a woman standing tall in the face of chaos, her wrists bound with coarse rope, the laughter of those meant to protect her slicing through the autumn air like a blade. Major Clara Henshaw, a decorated officer who had led soldiers through the jaws of war, now stood tethered to a weathered post in the heart of her hometown, her dignity stripped bare under a gray October sky. The cops' jeers echoed, their phones flashing as they recorded her shame, unaware that a storm was brewing, a reckoning that would shake the ground beneath them and leave an indelible mark on everyone watching. This is the story of betrayal, resilience, and a loyalty so fierce it turned humiliation into legend, and you won't believe how it unfolds. Clara's journey began not in the quiet streets of Ashwood, but in the dust-choked battlefields half a world away. At 45, she carried the weight of 2 decades in the military, her sharp green eyes holding memories of firefights and fallen comrades. She had joined the Army at 22, driven by a promise to her older brother, Tom, who never came home from his last deployment. Clara rose through the ranks, her calm under pressure earning her the nickname Steel Sparrow among her troops. She led missions that saved hundreds, her voice steady over the crackle of radios, her hands steady stitching wounds in the chaos of combat. But beneath the medals pinned to her chest was a heart scarred by loss. Tom's dog tag still hung around her neck, a quiet reminder of why she fought. Now retired, she had returned to Ashwood to lay low, to heal, to plant roots in the town where she and Tom used to race bikes down Maple Street. She wasn't here for fanfare, just a small ceremony to dedicate a park bench to local veterans. But fate had other plans, and a single moment of compassion would plunge her into a nightmare. It was late afternoon, the air crisp with the scent of fallen leaves when Clara saw trouble brewing outside the corner diner. A young man, barely 20, sat slumped against a wall, his army surplus jacket patched and frayed. He was a veteran, she could tell. His eyes had that distant, haunted look she knew too well. 2 cops loomed over him, their voices loud, accusing him of loitering, of scaring customers. The taller one, Officer Brandt, kicked at the kid's backpack, scattering its contents. Dog-eared letters, a worn photo of a family. Clara's heart clenched. She saw Tom in that boy's trembling hands. Without thinking, she stepped forward. "Leave him be," she said, her voice firm but calm, the kind that had silenced war rooms. Brandt turned, his lip curling. "Who the hell are you, lady? His mom?" The other cop snickered, but Clara held her ground, pulling out her military ID. "Major Clara Henshaw. This man's done more for this country than you'll ever know. Back off." Brandt's eyes flicked to the ID, then he laughed, tossing it into the dirt. "Fancy card don't mean nothing. You're both troublemakers." Before she could react, they grabbed her, their grip bruising as they dragged her toward a wooden post by the town square, a relic from old market days. The ropes came out, not cuffs but ropes, as if to mock her further. They bound her wrists tight, the coarse fibers biting into her skin, the post rough against her back. Clara's pulse raced, but she forced herself to breathe, to stay composed, even as Brandt leaned close, his breath sour. "Let's see how tough you are now, Major." The word dripped with sarcasm, and the small crowd that gathered, shopkeepers, teens, a few curious retirees, whispered nervously. Some laughed, egged on by the cop's bravado, while others looked away, uncomfortable, but silent. Clara's mind flashed to her last mission, pinned down in a crumbling village, her squad's lives in her hands. She had gotten them out alive. Then, she'd survive this too. But the humiliation burned, each chuckle a dagger, each camera flash a reminder of how far she'd fallen. She thought of her niece Lily, only 16, who idolized her. How would Clara explain this? Hours crept by, her arms aching, blood trickling from where the ropes rubbed raw. The cops lingered, posting videos online with captions like, "Fake soldier gets what she deserves." But in that crowd, a teenage girl, Mia, recognized Clara from a school assembly about veterans. Her fingers flew over her phone, searching, and what she found would set off a chain reaction no one saw coming. Mia's search pulled up news articles. Major Henshaw saves platoon under fire. Local hero honored with Silver Star. Her gasp drew her friend's attention, and soon the whispers shifted. That's her, the major. A retired teacher in the crowd, once Clara's neighbor, dialed the nearby Fort Ellison, her voice shaking as she spoke to the base commander. Word spread online, the cops' own video backfiring as veterans groups shared it with fury. Clara, unaware, kept her eyes on the horizon, clinging to memories of Tom's laugh, of her squad's loyalty. As dusk settled, a low rumble broke. The jeers, a sound like distant thunder growing louder. Headlights pierced the twilight, military jeeps rolling into Ashwood's quiet streets, tires crunching gravel with purpose. Soldiers spilled out, their boots hitting the ground in unison, faces hard with resolve. At their head was Captain Lena Torres, Clara's protege, her dark eyes blazing. "Major Henshaw," she called, pushing through the crowd, ignoring Brant's oar. Protests. The cops froze, hands hovering near their holsters, but the sheer number of soldiers, dozens, then more, overwhelmed them. Lena drew a knife, slicing the ropes with a single stroke, catching Clara as she stumbled forward. "We've got you, ma'am," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Clara's knees buckled, but she stood tall, tears glinting as her soldiers formed a protective ring around her. The crowd fell silent, phones still recording, but now capturing a different story, one that would haunt and inspire. "Who the hell do you think you are?" Brant barked, his voice cracking as he faced Lena. "This is police business." Lena's gaze was steel. "This is our business. You tied up a war hero." The soldiers stepped closer, their presence a wall of green and grit. Clara, rubbing her wrists, spoke softly but with command. "Stand down, Captain. Let's not escalate." But the soldiers' anger was palpable, their loyalty to Clara a living force. A grizzled sergeant who'd served under her in Iraq stepped forward, his voice booming. "She carried me out of a burning Humvee. You don't touch her." The crowd murmured, some cheering, others crying as veterans among them shared stories. "She saved my brother in Syria," one said. "Took shrapnel to shield her team," another added. Brant's face paled, his bravado crumbling as the base commander, Colonel Grayson, arrived, his presence like a storm cloud. "Officer Brant, you've disgraced your badge," he said, promising a full investigation. Clara, bandaged now by a medic, addressed her troops, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "We fight for honor, not vengeance. Let justice do its work." But the moment wasn't over. Something bigger was brewing, and it would change Ashwood forever. The night unfolded in waves of emotion, the square transforming from a place of shame into a rally of solidarity. News vans arrived, cameras flashing as Clara's story went viral, hashtags like Honor Henshaw trending worldwide. The young veteran Clara had defended, named Jake, approached her, his eyes wet. "You stood up for me," he said, voice breaking. "I didn't know anyone still cared." Clara hugged him, whispering, "You're never alone." Her soldiers stayed close, sharing stories of her courage, how she'd negotiated with warlords to free hostages, how she'd stayed awake 48 hours to guard a wounded private. Brant and his partner faced suspension, their body cam footage already under review. Clara's niece Lily arrived, having driven from college, throwing her arms around her aunt. "I saw the video," she sobbed. "I'm so proud of you." The embrace felt like home, mending the cracks in Clara's heart. But she wasn't done. She invited Jake to the bench dedication the next day, insisting he sit beside her. The ceremony became a town-wide event, veterans and civilians alike packing the square, the air thick with gratitude. Brant, humbled, approached Clara privately. His head bowed. "I was wrong," he said, voice barely audible. Clara nodded, offering a handshake. Learn from it. Could forgiveness heal a town divided, or would scars linger? In the weeks that followed, Clara's story became a movement. Veterans groups launched campaigns for respect and support, inspired by her resilience. She spoke at schools, her voice soft but powerful, urging kids to stand up for the vulnerable. Jake moved into a veteran housing program, his confidence growing as Clara mentored him. Lily, inspired, started a blog sharing veteran stories, her posts reaching millions. Clara's nightmares persisted, ropes, laughter, the post's rough grain. But her soldiers checked in, their calls a lifeline. One evening, Lena brought a surprise, a custom plaque from the unit engraved, "Steel Sparrow Unbroken." Tears fell as they toasted her, laughter mixing with the clink of glasses. Clara visited Tom's grave, laying his dog tags down, whispering, "I kept my promise." The town square's post was removed, replaced with a statue of a soldier, dedicated to those who rise. As Clara stood at its unveiling, surrounded by her troops, Jake and Lily, she felt peace, not perfect, but enough. But as her story echoes on channels like this, one question lingers: what would you do when loyalty calls? Words 2004.